Hello, welcome back to Unbox the Podcast. I'm your host, Sahar Huneidi Palmer, and we're continuing with the power of your story. How the stories we tell ourselves shape and limit who we are becoming. In the last episode, we moved through big themes, letting go of what no longer fits, trusting what comes next, and listening to the quiet voice of intuition, instead of looping back to the old logic. Today, we're stepping into the next part of the journey, the way forward and how to live authentically. So what now? How do you begin to walk forward in a way that feels real and authentic, true to who you are becoming? Let's get into it. The fact is, your story is changing. You've let go of something to make room for the new. Maybe it was an old identity, how you used to see yourself, or a belief that fueled your story so far. It can be a relationship that you thought defined who you are, or a role that you no longer relate to. And when you do that, when you truly release it, something shifts. Something always shifts. But the question that always follows is now what? It's natural to feel unsure. You might find yourself tempted to go back to the old ways of doing things, to what feels safe. But the truth is, you've changed. The very reason you're having these doubts or feelings is because you're changing. And going back isn't really an option. You're now in a space where you're creating your new story, not with force, not with pressure, but with clarity. When you choose one thing that feels right, you begin to move with momentum, with excitement, with passion, and that's what keeps you going. And for that, you need to know who's driving the story now. Is it an old fear, an old theme, or is the real you truly emerging? Let's break the way forward down through the 4 dimensions of change. First, the body. Are you feeling energized or drained by the steps you're thinking of? One client I worked with, Dina, kept saying yes to offers she didn't really want. Her stomach would clench, her sleep would be disrupted, but she'd ignore it, thinking she should be grateful. But her body always told her the truth. All we need to do is to listen. Emotions. Are your emotions pointing to alignment or resistance? Are you feeling anxious because you are out of alignment, or because you're growing into something new and don't know exactly how to do that? Now let's talk about feelings, real feelings, and emotions. Emotions and feelings are not the same. Think of an emotion as energy in motion, going through the motions, going through the ups and downs. That happens when you're triggered by something and you're reacting to it, and your brain releases the necessary hormones to help you decide whether to fight or flight. In other words, you get emotional when you haven't yet thought something through. Feelings are not the same. Feelings are not stories in your head, but the sensations that arise from the heart. That sense of passion, excitement, alignment, feeling energized, and I want to carry on. You can't help that. That just happens. Most people don't realize that your heart has more neural connection than the brain. Yes, more. It's not just a pump, it's the center of our intelligence. And the heart always knows. It picks up everything we're going through, and through it, it sends signals to the brain that releases the necessary chemicals to help you take the steps that you do. When you think about something, say a decision or a new opportunity, notice how your heart center, your chest area if you like, responds. Does it soften Or does it expand? Does it clench back? Logic often speaks in shoulds. I should take that job. I should do this. I should stay here. It's safer, and so on. But your heart doesn't deal in shoulds. It tells you if something feels right, if it feels true, if it's genuine. This is part of building your inner compass. Those true feelings are not dramatic. They're subtle. They're more like a sense of knowing, a sense of excitement at creating something new. And the more you practice listening to your heart center, the more it will guide you clearly. What about mind and beliefs? What story are you telling yourself about what's possible? Is it, I can't start over at this age, or I must do what others expect of me? You can't walk the new path with the same old mental blocks. It simply doesn't work. It doesn't apply. It's like running an old software having had an upgrade. And finally, accountability to action. What is the one thing you can actually do today or this week? I'm not suggesting you list 20 things, just one thing that is actually possible for you to do today. It could be researching something, sending an email, organizing one thing or another, making phone calls, whatever it is. There must be something that you can do. When you start moving forward, you generate the momentum. You attract it to you, if you will. Real change is built on momentum, not pressure. One thing that you can do now. Make a note of it. Let's talk for a moment about momentum, not pressure. Pressure comes from fear or shoulds or I have to. It's a push. It's a rush. It's a tight deadline. Momentum is different. It's built from presence, from a decision that feels great, feels aligned, feels like it's the right thing to do. It's a gentle forward motion that builds energy over time without burnout. Let's be honest. We live in a world that glorifies pressure. Do more, be more, achieve now. Yes, but the pressure burns you out. It depletes you. It creates anxiety and disconnection from your body and your intuition. Momentum is different. Momentum is what happens when you take an aligned step and then another and then another, and it seems like it's the next natural thing for you to do. It builds naturally. It creates flow. It energizes rather than depletes. This is a key shift in walking the real you. Instead of forcing an outcome, let it go and begin sensing what your heart feels like and let them unfold with rhythm and awareness. Remember, consistency is not the same as urgency. Your path doesn't have to be hard to be worthwhile. It needs to be focused and aligned. So how do you spot old patterns? This is where your awareness comes in. The old story will sneak back, dressed as logic. That's normal. It might be telling you, I have to be realistic, or what will people think of me? But you now have tools to spot that voice. And you can pause and you can do something about it. You can connect with your body, that doesn't lie, and you can question that story, that old story that you've been playing over and over. Pause it, delete it, and then you can choose not to listen. Instead, vocalize or write something down. Write the theme of the new story that you want to create. This is how we walk forward as the real you. Not perfectly, but intentionally. What about money, fear, and survival? What is the one thing that you're avoiding to face? You know, the elephant in the room. Let's talk about that. What often blocks people from living the life they want to live, from living their truth, is fear. Whatever you can think of, we're always boiled down to fear. Fear of not being accepted, fear of not being acknowledged or validated, fear of not being able to survive. How will I pay my bills? What would people think of me? Fear is real, and it is understandable. It's since evolution began, since we evolved from one cell into the multidimensional being that we are. We've been conditioned to believe that security only comes from paths that are certain. But security without fulfillment is a slow death of the soul, of passion, of creativity, of imagination. And this is, if you come to really think of it, when we feel like, oh, that was a waste of time, or that was a boring person to meet, because you don't feel that the lights are on. You don't feel their passion, their creativity, their imagination. It doesn't mean you throw caution to the wind. It means you get practical and intuitive. Stretch your comfort zone a little bit. Get used to it and then do it again. And keep doing it until you feel comfortable taking leaps. I read a great book many moons ago by Susan Jeffers, and it was entitled Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And you know the motto of a certain sports brand, just do it. Overthinking the what ifs keeps you stuck. You can stop doing that. So ask yourself, what do I believe about money, belonging, or seeking outside validation? Does that belief still serve me? Does it do me any good? How does that belief limit what is possible now? How many times have we let good opportunities go just because we thought, that's not me, that's not possible for me? Sometimes your gifts, the things that make you light up, are the very path to abundance, to being the real you. But you won't know that. If you only play it safe. One client of mine, Samir, was terrified to leave his finance job. But he had a passion for design. He started freelancing on the side, one aligned step at a time, until he ran his own studio. His breakthrough came when he realized his fear wasn't about money. It was about being judged, being seen, truly showing up and listening to his heart. Not fitting where he thought he should fit. That was really what made him anxious. Once we named that, he was free to choose differently. And now he's ready to make another leap, having conquered the first. I worked with Nadia, who has been holding onto her old story of I'm not good with money. That belief shaped every decision she made, from undercharging clients to avoiding taking care of her own finances. When we explored where that belief came from, it traced back to her childhood, to what she used to hear growing up. She grew up with, we can't afford that. Now is not the right time for that, even when they could. It wasn't about lack. It was this inherited fear, limitations that she grew up with. We reframed it together, and she began to see money as an energy, as a real life thing that ebbs and flows, and she can direct and she can look after, and so on. It started to be something she can relate to instead of being afraid of. This shift allowed her to raise her prices or price them accordingly, invest in herself, and build a more stability, more sustainable way of living her way. So here's a practical exercise. I call it your one step, your one next step exercise. Grab a pen and paper when you can. If you're driving, don't do this. Do it later, but ask yourself, what and whom have I outgrown? What and who makes me feel really good about myself? What small action can I take now that feels right? Once you define answers to these 3 questions, your brain will get working. It will make new neural circuits that will help you find the answers. So circle the answer that really warms your heart. My mentor used to say, whenever I asked him, what do I need to do? He will say, do whatever makes your heart sing. And I would say, that's it? And he'd always answer, yeah, why complicate things? So let me tell you a story about my dad when I was a child. He never said no to anything I asked of him, but he never said yes either. I don't know how he did it. Sometimes he really wants to teach me the value of things so that I feel I've earned it. There was a fantastic toy shop in Kuwait while I was growing up, and all of us children, you die if you don't go there. We all wanted to go there, buy toys, which usually happened around occasions like Eid and Christmas. So I kept asking my dad, when are you going to take me to so-and-so store? And he would say, yes, I will take you. We will go when my heart is open and at ease. He would literally say that. Except he'd say it in classical Arabic, which to me as a child sounded like an occasion. So I never doubted him, and I never resented it, because I knew that he'll do it when his heart is open and at ease. In Arabic, he'd say, when I would ask him when would we go, he would say, عند انشراح صدري. And that sounded like an ominous occasion. So I just waited. I happily waited. Now, take a step. Notice how you feel. And notice if your heart is at ease. That's how you walk forward. Let's do a quick check-in from head to heart. Let's do a mini practice together. Close your eyes when you can or when you listen to this later and take a deep breath. Think of something you've been unsure about. Now gently place your hand over your heart or mentally focus on it. Just have a sense of where is that wonderful pump, where does it live in your chest, and ask yourself, does this feel expanded or does it contract when I think of whatever it is? Do I feel at ease or ill-ease? Don't overthink it. Just sense how your heart space changes when you think of options. This is your inner compass speaking. The more you practice using this compass, the more it will give you clarity and truth. Your heart always tells you the truth. And finally, I just want to say that you don't need to have all the answers all the time. But you can allow them to surface, to emerge, to unfold. You only need to listen, sense, and choose one mindful step at a time. That's how the real you, your authentic self, moves forward. And everything that you do will be authentic to who you are becoming. That's how your new story is written. If today's episode helped you see your path a little bit more clearly, I would love to hear from you. Email me or message me, or visit my website, saharhunaidi.com. And remember to subscribe. I know many of you listen and you send me comments and messages, but it would actually help more people discover the podcast when you subscribe. You know how it works. Until next Tuesday, stay well and keep unboxing. This is Sahar, wishing you a great week ahead.